Hello, and welcome to my limited series podcast entitled A Composer Takes on Amadeus. I'm John Reese, the titular composer. I've been writing music about 40 years, and I like to think that along the way I've picked up a few things about musicology and music history that qualifies me to make the commentary on this 1984 movie. So the movie Amadeus, made in 1984, is based on the famous play by Peter Shaffer, and he in turn based it on the supposed rivalry between two renowned 18th century composers in Vienna named Antonio Salieri and Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Are the events portrayed in this movie real? More importantly, is the way the music portrayed realistic? That's what we're going to find out here. Here, Mozart has recently arrived in Vienna and has been offered an audience with Emperor Joseph to discuss writing an opera. Salieri is a member of Joseph's court. He is the court composer, and at this point in the story, he is very much looking forward to meeting Mozart, so he writes a new composition to honor him, a march that he will play as Mozart enters the room.
I want to meet this young man. Chamberlain, arrange a pleasant welcome for him. Well, there it is.
It's considered a little amateurish for a composer to write at the piano. That's because he should be writing down what's in his head, not what's under his fingers. Now, when they show Mozart composing, he's never composing at the piano. Was this a deliberate attempt to make Salieri look amateurish? There's no way of knowing, but it is a good way for us to see him composing and hear the music at the same time. Salieri is filled with pride for this accomplishment of being able to write a piece like this, and he looks at the crucifix and says, "Thank you, Lord." What's not quite right about this is that this piece is very trivial.
Like it? They're all so beautiful. Why don't I have three heads? Well,
This is not something that a composer of Salieri's stature would be proud of. It's a very small piece, very short. In fact, it's not even a complete composition as far as you can tell here. It sounds like it's just a melody.
private. Proper, but I've written a little march of welcome to his honor. What a charming idea, court composer. May I see? Just a trifle, of course. Can I try it? Majesty.
Obviously, Salieri intended to play this piece himself, but it didn't turn out that way because the emperor decided he wanted to play it with his extremely limited skills.
May I play it when he comes in? Herr Salieri composed this little march of welcome for you.
Oh, grazie, signore. Sono commosso.
Oh. This is yours.
Keep it, Majesty, if you want. It's already here in my hand.
Here we see the emperor offers Salieri's manuscript to Mozart, and he turns it down, saying, "It's okay, I've already memorized it." That may seem like a jerk move to most people, and it is. Mozart does here, playing this piece by ear after having heard it only one time, may seem miraculous, but this is just a little more than what music majors learn in college. They learn ear training, where they either learn to play something by ear or they learn to take dictation. What we'd normally do in a case like this, we would hear the two most obvious lines being played, the top melody part and the bass line, and we know what the harmonies are. We may not know what the exact notes are, but we can fill it in with our knowledge of music theory, and that's what Mozart does here.
The rest is just the same, isn't it?
Okay, when Mozart says the rest is just the same, it's not only a subtle dig at Salieri, it also confirms that this is the entire piece. This is everything that Salieri wrote. And that is not realistic. This is not a complete composition. If you were going to write a march in the 18th century, the very simplest form it would take would be what's called the binary form. That means it has an A and a B section. The A section is played and then repeated. Then the B section is played and then repeated. The B section is usually a little more elaborate. It goes into different keys, perhaps. Certainly has some kind of chromaticism. The A section in this case would be the entire composition that is played here. Then you would have a B section, and that's completely missing. That's not something Salieri would have done.
That doesn't really work, does it? You try. Shouldn't it be a bit more? Or this? This? Yes. Better? What do you think?
Okay, at this point, something sounds a little fishy. Okay, now we see what's going on here. This is a bit of movie magic. They have taken one of the most famous pieces by Mozart, an aria called Non più andrai from The Marriage of Figaro. They deconstructed it, stripped it down to its harmonic essentials, and then called it a march that Salieri has supposedly written. So if Salieri had actually written that, then Mozart is a plagiarist. He stole that and then used it years later in The Marriage of Figaro. Here's why it's impossible that this happened the way it's shown in the movie. It shows that Salieri created this tune, this composition, and gave it to Mozart, and Mozart spontaneously created the tune that would later become Non più andrai. The reason that doesn't make sense is because you have to think about how songs were written back then. It isn't like today where it's usually either the composer writes the lyrics himself or they collaborate with someone else who helps write the song. You had libretto writers who would write the words to the opera, and then it would circulate around the opera community, and composers would look at it and one of them would say, oh, this looks like something I would like to set to music. So they would set it to music. A lot like the way screenplays circulate around Hollywood these days. So Mozart would have taken this libretto and decided what kind of music went well with it. And the music he came up with was very closely tied to the text that had already been written by someone else. So it's not possible that he came up with this tune years before and then said, oh, this would go well with these lyrics. Because the song is about someone who's joining the military, and music is written to sound like a bugle call. That's why it goes da 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 da. It's built into the DNA of the music that it fits the circumstances in the opera at that point and the words of the song. Okay, here we see Mozart having finished his variation on Salieri's composition, and then he goes off on a tangent and starts playing this new music. It's made to sound as if he's just improvising this and creating it as he goes along, and it humiliates Salieri because he realizes he doesn't have the talent to do this. Well, Salieri, as a well-trained musician and a composer, would have had the talent to do something like this. Also, what Mozart is playing is not an improvisation. It is the actual music from the Marriage of Figaro that closes out this aria, Non piangerai, and it is for a specific purpose. The setting of the opera at the end of the song is all the soldiers in the scene get into formation and march off the stage. So they need a march for them to march off to, and that's what this is. So it's not possible that this happened the way it is shown in the movie and Mozart somehow remembered it and it just happened to fit perfectly the circumstances of this opera. That's not how it happened. In conclusion, the way the movie portrayed music composition wasn't entirely realistic. However, I can give them a pass on that because they had to take a little dramatic license to make it palatable to all audiences and sort of dumb it down for people who don't know that much about music. So I think it's a great movie, and I'm glad that they at least tried to show what this was like. Thank you, and I will see you in the next installment.